Hey everybody, Mealworm here. Today I'm making a video on some solo prospector mining. Update 3.22 to Star Citizen has brought a couple changes to all mining, actually, and a lot of them work in favor to solo miners in both prospectors and moles. However, today we're going to focus purely on the prospector side of things. There'll be another video coming highlighting the mole. So I won't go super in depth to all of the changes that were made in 3.22 to mining. However, Red Monster SC has a fantastic video outlining all of the changes, and additionally, all of the resources and tables being used in this video are actually created by him, so check the description for his direct links if you want to go ahead and research in depth yourself. One of the most defining changes that was made were the changes to the general mass of rocks and asteroids based on their individual locations. To put it shortly, each individual location now has a specific range of masses available in all of their rocks, leading to some locations being better or worse for prospectors or for moles. The actual locations, I'll go ahead and put some charts up later here in the video as we get into it. So just know that for solo mining and prospectors or moles, there are more ideal locations for you depending on the loadout that you'll be utilizing in your ships. To start, let's go ahead and take a look at the lasers available on the Prospector. Alright, taking a look here at this chart of all of the different mining lasers, courtesy again of Red Monster Gaming, we're going to take a look at what is available on the Prospector. So this has all of the lasers available, but what we'll be looking at are all of these size 1 lasers. Now the Arbor MH1 is the default laser. If you are hurting for in-game money, feel free to stay on this and add a module to it, or get a laser and then get a module at a later time. If you are in a rental, you will actually be unable to change the laser or the modules, so skip ahead to gadgets and where to mine later in the video. The best laser that I find works the best are going to be the Hofstede S1s. Now, while the Hofstede is not the highest power available, being beaten out by the Klein and the ever massive Helix, what we're really also going to be contending with is the minimum power that is available, as well as the bonuses or reductions that come with the general lasers. The Hofstede hits a perfect middle ground while being more powerful than the Arbor by a hair, but is able to maintain a very decent optimal range and max range. But the biggest offering that it has is it does give a reduction to resistance, a small bump in instability, which is manageable, but also the optimal charge window. You see that plus 60% is the largest bonus available of any laser, size 1 or size 2. So that, even though there's higher instability, that charge window is going to be so large that you're barely even going to feel it. Now, a lot of folks do like the Helix because it really is massive. It's the most expensive laser. It is the strongest laser available. However, being locked to a minimum power that is well above what the Hofstede gives or any other laser means when you get to those smaller rocks, you have to be very quick on feathering that laser, or you have to commit to only large rocks and then maybe get hampered by secondary breaks. So again, Hofstede S1, that's going to be our go-to. Both of the loadouts that I'm going to show you today utilize the Hofstede S1. The other items that you can attach into your loadout are the modules for each laser. Now, if you were paying attention at the last sheet here, each laser has a number of module slots that can be attached to it, all the way from 0 for the Klein up to 3 for the size 2s. That being said, the Hofstede only has one singular module slot, so let's go ahead and take a look at those. All right, so taking a look at the mining modules, there's 2 distinct types of modules, the first being active modules and the second being passive modules. They're separated in this sheet. These ones here are the actives, everything below are the passives. Now, active modules, by their name, require them to be activated, so make sure you have those keybinds set in game. And the next thing is that the active modules have specific number of uses and a duration for it. There are 2 active modules that are worth looking at. The first is the Stampede, and the second being the Surge, purely for the mining laser power that they offer. They're the same price, so you'll be able to pick whichever flavor you like. In the builds in this, I recommended the Surges just because they have a little bit extra oomph to that laser power, but you'll be able to pick and choose whatever you feel is appropriate, and you'll find your own style and time. Going through the two, the Stampedes offer it says 135%, but if you tack off the 100, it's 35% increase to laser power. Also reduces some instability, which is quite nice. The shatter damage reduction is also nice. It's just a little bit of extra on the side there. Now this reduction to the extraction laser power, frankly, is a non-issue. I don't I don't mind spending a little bit extra time for the 30 seconds the Stampede's going to scoop up those rocks when I'm getting such a boost to the laser power to it. The other one is the Surge, which offers a larger boost to the laser power, a final of plus 50%. It adds instability, so be good on that trigger. It actually does offer a reduction to the resistance to the rock, which is quite nice. And that's essentially all that it does. Now, this gives that extra boost compared to the Stampede, so it can help you reach those larger rocks, which is excellent. The other thing to look at are the durations. So you have, with the Surge, it only lasts 15 seconds, and the Stampede, it lasts for 30 seconds. 30 seconds on the Stampede is ample time to crack that rock open, especially all you need is that first break for multi-break rocks. The 15 seconds on the Surge can cause some problems if it's a particularly large rock or you're taking your time and the instability is high and you don't want to crack it angry. So you might find yourself having to use 2 uses on a large rock. That being said, on a Prospector, you really only need 2 or 3 large rocks to fill the hold, so using extra charges for those breaks is not an issue. For the passive modules, most of what I recommend for the Prospector, because its shortfall is the size 1 lasers and its power, is to look at the Rieger line. These offer just flat bonuses to the laser power with some hits to the optimal charge window. Now, if you can afford it, going for the Rieger C3 gives you at the end of the day, a 25% increase to that laser power. With such a small decrease in optimal charge window, you won't even notice it. Extra laser power is always nice. It's going to help you hit those bigger rocks. So let's go ahead and get talking about the next bit. All right, enough about the lasers and their modules. There is another piece of kit that is available while out mining, and these are gadgets. Gadgets are equipped by yourself, the player, who then gets out of their ship and attaches them to the rocks. There are a lot of different ones here. There are 6. However, there are 2 that I really want to focus on today. The first being the Saber or Sabir, and the second being the Optimax. The Sabir, first and foremost, is amazing to reduce that resistance. This is going to let you hit and crack much larger rocks. These are fantastic for that. They also increase that optimal charge window size, so any instability will be offset a little bit, which is helpful because this does add a little bit of instability to them. The second is the Optimax. This also offers a bit of a reduction to resistance. It does lower that optimal window size, but depending on your lasers, especially if you have the Hofstede, that will essentially even out in a way. But what we're looking at here is the cluster modifier, and we'll get into that when we look at the mining locations and what to mine. But just know, the better the cluster modifiers, the better breaks you're going to get on your rocks, which is going to just increase the profit that you're going to be able to pull in with your Prospector. So now we need to find out where we want to mine. Now, this chart has a ton of information on it, but I'm going to point you to a couple of the things that you really want to be focusing on when you're selecting somewhere to mine. So in basics, you have your tier 3 ores, your tier 2 ores, and your tier 1s, and then Quantanium is all in its own, considering it is nearly 4 times the price of any other of the tier 1s. Now, this average mass and the mass index range, this is what was added in 3.22. This mass index and range was all data collected by Red Monster Gaming. God bless, it's fantastic. So what we want to look at is when we look at this mass index range, we have a number anywhere from 1 at the lowest to 8 at the highest. The larger the number, the bigger the rocks are going to be. Those size 1 rocks are those little bitties that you find that can't be broken and can only be scooped. And frankly, we want to stay away from those. We want bigger rocks. We want to utilize breaks and cluster modifiers so that we can be picky about what we're scooping into our hold. The next is anything that's above maybe a 3 or anything that's a 4 or above is going to be out of reach for the Prospector. So anything that the range goes up very high, you're looking at such as Lyria and Walla, half of those rocks that you're going to find are going to be unattainable, even with the utilization of a gadget. So personally, I like to mine on Daymar. The high cap is higher than a lot of the others. However, it negates the 1s. So on average, the smaller rocks are larger. Now, if you have a location that you like to mine at, just go there. You know, mining is mining. We're all in it for the serenity of crunching those rocks. The next is taking a look at what ore percentages are available. Obviously, we're going to be focusing on tier 1 and tier 2s because they are the easiest to focus. Now, Quantanium, being so rare, is harder to direct focus. So just be aware that the way that the ores are spread about, you'll never find a full cluster and have every rock in that cluster have Quantanium. Looking at the very bottom here are the values for all of the different ores. What we really want to be looking at is this cluster modifier. Now, the cluster modifier is how often the rocks, when they split, will have all of that material clustered together in a higher percentage. So this is that cluster modifier that we were talking about with the Optimax. And you'll notice down at the very bottom, we have higher cluster modifiers. And as we raise up, that cluster modifier gets less and less. And so that's what we want to try to play against and utilize tier 3s that have high cluster modifiers. Because if the garbage ores bunch together all in their own rocks, that leaves a higher percentage inversely to the other rocks that are available. This chart is available on the Red Monster site, so you can go ahead and utilize it and read into it in as deep as your heart's content. The next thing to look at are the different refineries to utilize once you've filled up your ore hold. And they're all a little bit different. Some are the absolute worst, some are the absolute best. And this will come down to where you're mining and how quickly you can basically make an entire lap. It's better to get a faster turnaround than it is to go an extra distance and visit a better refinery for what you're mining. That's just also based on having to refuel on both sides or using a slower drive to get back and forth. So personally, I mine on Daymar and head to the closest, which is Crew L1. Even though it is, by the numbers, the worst for those higher ores, I'm able to get faster laps out. So the best of them all is Mike L5, which is way out in the boonies. So I wouldn't even think about using this until you're in a mole that can fit a larger drive to do a there and back wherever you are. So taking a look at this chart, another thing is you can essentially select a location that you like to mine. You might just have a generalized favorite. See what the spikes are in the materials, and then try to find a refinery that has corresponding bonuses. And if you look too deeply into it, you'll find that the planets with bigger bonuses to ores, their closest refineries will often have negatives to those ores. So There's a little bit of give and take involved, and essentially you'll find what fits best for you. So let's go through the two main loadouts that I'm going to go ahead and recommend to this. And the very first is the Hofstede size one with the Rieger C3. This is what I'm running on my ship pretty much all the time. This gives, like we saw, that 25% bonus to max power, a reduction to the resistance of the rock, as well as the bonus to the optimal charge window. So this is, I'm going to call this the comfy build. There's no active modules to contend with. You can either get the rock or you can't. And if you want to put a little bit of extra sauce, you can utilize those gadgets. The severe gadget is the biggest reduction to resistance that we saw. You'll see we'll go from 30 resistance to negative 65 resistance. This is going to let you reach much larger rocks. Without any gadgets, I've been able to crack up to 8,000 in mass. With the severe, I've reached nearly 10,000 alone. Now, the other thing that can be utilized is that Optimax that we talked about. This is also going to give a bonus to the resistance reduction of the rock, and it's also going to introduce that cluster modifier. So this will also help you get above that 8,000 mark, maybe not as far as that severe, but is very helpful and nearly essential when we've gone and found any tier 1 materials that might be floating around with us. So if we take a look here, all of these ores above Laranite and above, this is a good, if you have a high percentage, this is a really good opportunity to use that Optimax. The second loadout we have is the Hofstede, replacing that Rieger C3 with the active surge module. So without it activated, we're just at that base power, the 2100, which is below the 2625 with the Rieger. However, with that surge activated for 15 seconds, you'll have 3150, which is now well above this. While the surge module is active, I've been able to crack into rocks up to 12,000 in mass. So this is going to let you reach a lot higher. However, there is that added variability that it increases the stability a fair amount. So be good on the trigger and be safe when you're cracking those rocks. You can also add on a severe to get that reduction in resistance actually higher than it is with the Rieger and the severe. Or you can do the Optimax and get that cluster modifier as before with still the same reduction in resistance that it did in the build before. So another thing that you can do is you can keep a surge module in your Prospector and swap it out at your leisure. Now that also includes unlocking your ports and landing and getting out, and you better have a tractor beam with you, but that is also an option if you want that added flexibility to crack those rocks. In that same line, you could also bring on, you could do a helix, put on a surge as an active, and a Rieger C3, turn the surge on, 6K. I haven't done this personally, but I imagine you could crack some pretty big rocks with it. That being said, you then have to come out, take your helix off, put a softer laser on to get those secondaries, because a rock that size, more than likely you're going to have secondary breaks involved. So enough looking at charts, enough looking at the websites. Let's go ahead and get on into game here and take a look at what we've got. So looking at the actual fit of our ship, we've gone through the lasers that are there. Let's talk about other modules and systems that you might want to think about upgrading in your ship. So coolers, don't worry about it. Power plant, don't worry about it. Quantum drive, essential upgrade. Now the quantum drive, I would utilize Urkel.games for this once you've selected where you'd like to mine and where you'd like to refine. If you want some flexibility on where you refine, you can certainly take a lower class that can have a larger maximum distance to ensure that you can get there and back. That being said, the more time you spend mining, the more profit you're going to make. So the less time you're spending jumping in QT, the more profit you're going to make. Down to Earth Astronomy had a fantastic video on this when the 3.19 update dropped. Now, while it's an older update, the ideals are the same and the ideas hold through regardless. I'll link that in the description as well below. So for that reason, even before I saw the video, I always loved mining on Daymar. So I usually just go to Crew L1, which is arguably one of the worst refineries in the entirety of the game. But it being so close to Daymar means I get more loads per hour. The other upgrade that you could make is that shield generator. Now, I personally don't upgrade this. A lot of folks do. If you're hard for that alpha UEC, you don't have to. You can also always increase the shield power to the front if you're worried about those cracks hurting your ship, or if something is cracking angry, you won't have to worry about it too much. So this is a maybe. I personally don't. Vehicle weapons, don't worry about it. You're not hitting any combat in this thing. And then the utility, again, this is where we see those the lasers and the modules. So my normal kit, that comfy build, is a Hofstede size 1 with the Rieger C3. Now let's go do some mining. Enough gib gabbing. Now before you go out mining, make sure you have a multi-tool with a tractor beam. I'm gonna recommend you bring some sippies with you. Now, you also have your mining gadgets. Now, you can equip a gadget to your character. So I have a Sabir here. The other ones are usually just held in my Prospector.
To the ASOP vehicle.
There she is. Love it. Love it, love it. All right, let's get on out of here. So I am in Crew L1, which is normally where I'm living when it comes to the mining. And there is a bit of a nuisance where it won't let you choose a QT point while you're in the station. Yeah, it's a little funky. So what I'll usually do is hop on out. I've done this enough times that I can usually get myself pointed where I need to. I think that's Crusader right there. And off to Daymar. Oh yeah, I'm good. Alright, now we're gonna zoop on over to Daymar. Okay, we are here. Now I like to get somewhere on the sunny bits. I betcha this will be pretty sunny. Now this is a security post, so we're gonna land, then turn tail so we don't end up getting blasted by the security turrets there. Alrighty, and we have arrived. Alright, let's get down to the surface. Now, personally, I like to hang around mountains. I think it's fun just to fly around them. Anecdotally, I feel like the rocks are bigger there. Completely untested on my own part, but always fun. Let's do some blasting. We got a couple bits here. Let's pop into scan mode and see what we got. Ooh, 26. Oh, 1200. That could be pretty big. Let's go check that out. Other ones up there, an 11.7. Those are also going to be pretty big. Now, a thing that you can do is you can increase your zoom right onto where the rocks are and ping it again. There we go. And they'll show up like that. If you're too wide, you're not going to get those little icons. So that'll help you hunt them down, especially if the little box indicator decides to go away from you. Alright, so we got a pretty big chunk here. This is a pretty big puppy. Let's see what we got size-wise. Scan for me? Come on. Nope, okay. Will you do it in mining mode?
Fracturing mode on.
Yeah, you will. 45k, nope. I was right, that was a big boy. I mean, I think even a mole's gonna have an issue of 45k. Okay, 8,700, we got a medium. 30%'s not too bad. Now I'm gonna recommend that you scan all of the rocks that are available to you, so you're not wasting time on something that's going to be a lower yield while you're out there. 17k, that's a no-go. You're probably too big as well. Let's see what we got. Yep, 34. So this is where we're hitting the larger side of that mass index, but when we find those 6 to 8 to 10,000 mass rocks, that's when we know we can get almost our entire hold out of it. That one looks a little bit smaller. 5k. With Quantanium, no freaking way. Well, we might end up cutting this a little short just to scoop up that Quantanium, so let's rock this guy here. Now, copper was one of those that had a pretty good cluster modifiers, so I'm not going to worry too much about throwing a gadget onto this. Going to increase, so we're looking at mid to high 20s on our stables. How's our server FPS? 10? That'll be pretty nice and smooth. Now, if your server FPS is 5, the instability is going to be more jittery. And if you're below a 5, I'm going to honestly recommend that you server hop to find something that is a little bit more stable, because the rocks don't like to cooperate at anything below 5 server FPS. Kaboom! So let's see what we've got here. Look at this guy that's trying to roll away from us. 26%, that's pretty good. You can also use the resistance on the rock to know if it's going to be a good one, once you kind of understand what how the resistances play into which main materials you're looking at. So we've got 25%, so I know that we're actually at a pretty good high quantity of something tier 2. In this case, this whole rock is agricium or agricium. Let's scan. So sometimes I'll wait for that resistance to pop up. 25% is pretty good. We'll take it. And I'll start scanning. I'll start scooping before the rock even finishes scanning if I see that resistance is at a level that I feel is acceptable. So let's take a look here. 8% garbage. See, 25%. Now, normally I would pass on this because I don't want to fill up the hold, but considering I've got a Quantanium rock and I'm going to want to bust back to station pretty quick, I'm going to scoop this anyways. Scan. 0%, that's all copper. So copper has 0 resistance, so that's the indicate. If it's a low resistance, so we got 3%, it's going to be mostly copper, mostly garbage. .5%, we're going to pass on that. Now, Let's go get some Quantanium, baby. Oh, you know what? I don't know if I brought my other gadgets with me.
Mining mode on.
Let's take a look. Yeah, baby, we do. So, I'm going to grab the Optimax. And so this Optimax is going to give us a better cluster modifier on this. Now, ultimately, if I was in a mole, I'd just eat the whole damn rock. I wouldn't even worry about it. That Quantanium is so valuable that it's a non-issue. But considering we're at 13 SCU, so we actually could fit this whole rock, I'm going to see if we can't roll the dice a little bit more and get some more juice out of us here. Did I not put my my gear's down. Come on. There she goes. Always turn your engines off. Last thing you want is to float away. If you're mining somewhere like Selin that's got storms on it and you don't turn off your engines, you might come back to the rock and your ship might have just left without you. So I'm just gonna jump out before so I don't have to. So the way that you're gonna use these gadgets, it's the same button as like your tractor beams, which is 4. You're gonna come up to the rock. You're gonna hold. I'm holding left click. You'll see where it's going. Curve chunk. It's gonna have a little loading bar, and then you're going to have to calibrate this to the actual rock itself. So, wow, this is actually already at a pretty good level. You've got these three bars here. Your propagation is going to kind of, you'll see it'll fuddy. Oh. Okay. Sorry, it's leaf blower day. So, this Optimax actually hit a pretty good spot right out of the gate, but you'll have your 3 sliders. You're gonna funk around with all of these until it gets into the green and this button says activate. So if we draw this, see, no, activate. We get it into a good spot with the accuracy. I believe it's gonna want 90 or above. As far as I can tell, there's not... I've been able to get 97% on this. Oh. And so you can definitely take the good enough approach with this. I like to see how 98. That's great. So I'm holding F to interact and then zooming in on it. Then we'll hit activate. Boom. It is now active, and that's going to stay on the rock. Now, these are not single use. I should have said that before going through the gadgets. These are not single use. You'll actually be able to go back and recover this after you've made your first break on the rock. So we're going to hop back in. I'm going to leave the landing gear down because I'm going to have to get back out. Now you can actually, if you land within the optimal range, just mine it on the ground. I don't recommend that for the only reason being, if you end up cracking angry, you're going to have to spend some time getting up and then away from the rock before taking any major damage. So now you see that little icon there? It looks like a spaceship. Each module has its own icon, and when you see that square, that means the rock that you're shooting has a module on it. So it's just a really good indicator, especially if there's multiple rocks and you don't want to lose track of anything. So let's make sure we're in the right mode here. Now Quantanium's a tougher one to mine out, but we see we've got such a decent optimum window here that I'm not even worried about it. Looking at probably high teens for a stable laser. Ooh. Ooh, big jump there. Bring it down. Ooh. Bit of desync there. When you hear your laser like kerchunk like that, it's there's desync. And before 3.22, that desync used to drop your laser to 1%, and you have to wind it all the way back up. It was actually terrible. Okay, we're gonna take the slow and steady approach here at 21. Come on, just give it that little. There you go. Then we're gonna knock it back 1%. 2. Love it. That's money. Back it up a bit. Yeah, see, even though I was not too far away, take a little bit of a hit. So those small hits can definitely add up. But, so that's where upgrading the shields or changing that shield power is very much worth it. Go on, get on the ground. There we go. Now that we've cracked the rock, you'll actually be able to see it right now. Our module is on the ground. Now, I recommend going and picking it up as soon as you get the break, and don't go for secondary breaks or scooping, because if you hit it with the laser, you'll obliterate it, and if you're scooping and a rock falls in the way, your tool's not going to be able to get it out. So I've had some issues trying to get these to pick up. What I found works is, come on, is you get into it and you have to click this detach button. Now there are situations where it might be face down. You can pick it up with your laser and then whoop, whoop, and then get up to it, zoom in, click detach, and then your guy will go and pick it up. And then you can stow it by holding R the same way you do everything. Now it's back on you. So these are essentially unlimited use. I keep a couple on me at all times if I can. For this trip, I just strapped a Sabir to me and then left the other one in the ship hold. So let's get on in. Let's scoop this Quantanium and head on back. We might be able to get a couple more rocks. They increased the Quantanium timer a couple patches ago, so we might have some time to scoop some more with this. So we got maybe 4, maybe 5 as the rock rebuilds itself. Okay, get that volatile cargo. As scary as that is, that's the sound of money. So normally, if you don't have a gadget to toss on, and you get rocks with unfair splits, you could always just scoop the whole thing up. Quantanium is much more expensive, so yeah, I think we're gonna end up. And the cluster modifier is so small that it's, yeah, see, that's still 27. Sometimes you'll get a single rock with no Quantanium in it, which is really nice. But if not, just eat up the whole thing. And then we're gonna be off on our way. Let's get back into scan mode here. Open it up. Let's see, nothing, no pings. There's a little bit over there. Let's see. Anything tasty? Oh, those might be gems. Those are so close to each other that they are probably gems. Yeah, those are gems. Okay, let's make our way. We do have a little bit of time now. If you ever want to see the time you have left on your volatile cargo, pop back into mining mode and it'll show up for you. Oh, ooh, there we go. Hello, buddy. Oh yeah, some juicy rocks. Juicy, juicy. We love it. Pop into mining mode, get direct reads on these.
Mining mode on.
Igneous. I have not yet committed to memory what each node type, you know, igneous, academite, and everything. Ooh, Bexlite, that's a pretty good rock. See, now this one is one of those small ones. It's not fracturable, so you basically just scoop the whole thing. Luckily, this actually had pretty good percentages. I'm not too miffed about that amount, so I'm just gonna scoop that up. But you really want to be able to capitalize on the cluster modifiers on other rocks. It's a 45k, that's too big. I'm not even going to try to scan that one. 12k. Now if I had the surge combo on that, I'd probably be able to crack that bad boy, but I do not today. 15k, that's a no-go. So, off we go. Back on out. Now we can spend a fair amount of time mining here. You'll also get to know, you know, how much time it's going to take to get to which refinery you want to use. Now I know that it takes me less than 5 minutes to get over to Crew L1, so I don't mind spending a little bit of that extra time finding some more rocks once I've got Quantanium in the hold. We're getting some big clusters today, folks. I'm digging this.
Extraction mode on. Mining mode on.
Got some little biddies here. We'll take it. We'll take it. Might just quick scoop all of these. %49% resistance. Oh my gosh. Love it. Oh boy. Now that's rare. I don't see that very often. A rock that needs no cracks with Quantanium in it. Ugh, we love it here. We only got a little bit left in the hole. Let's see if we can't scoop anything tasty from it. Laranite's not too bad. That is a T2. Gold. That's tier 1. We might end up scooping that. More Laranite. These look like they're going to be too big for us today. 11. I'm not going to fuss. 15. I'm not going to fuss. What was that? Mostly in there. 55%. That's going to have a pretty high percentage in there too. Yeah, so I'm not even going to be able to crack that. If I was in a mole, I might scoop that whole thing up. We are going to head on here. This is another one of those easy boys. You can always check by going to fracture mode. And if you don't see an optimal window or anything like that, then you know that it's not something you want to hit with the fracture. Something you want to go right to extract with. We're going to fill up immediately.
Storage full.
And we out of here, boys. And right from Daymar, you can hit Crew L1, so you don't. Sometimes you'll have to do some OM hopping, but you won't have to. In some systems, you gotta get to the main plant. You gotta hit Hurston or Microtech, and then move out to the Lagrange. But most of the time, I can get right from Daymar to Crew L1, which is fantastic.
Quantum travel complete.
All right, and we made it. We're gonna autopilot ourselves on in. We got plenty of time in the bank, 16 minutes. So we left Daymar with a little under 20 minutes. I don't mind slow boating into the station. I think the miner's life is very calm and collected, so I usually just float on in here. So I'll see you all once we dock.
Landing gear down.
Alright, now as we approach the station, it is imperative that I tell you to land softly. Quantanium, being volatile cargo, can also go off if you bonk into something too hard, be it the ground on your planet, another asteroid in the belt, or even inside the hangar itself. So be kind to your ship, take it slow, utilize that speed limiter so you're not just crashing into a nice ball of fire. Now, because I had such a good timer on that volatile cargo, in this particular instance, I'm not super worried about it, but it's just good practice to store your ship as soon as you land. When your ship is stored, the volatile cargo timer is stopped. So store it, and then you can take as much time as you need to get down to the refinery. You could even go and hit a med bed, do whatever you need. Your ship is safe while it's stored. Alright, so we're here at our refining center. We're going to pop in. Now, if you wanted to, you could come here to the ore sales and grab your Prospector and just sell off immediately. We could make a quick 55k right now. However, I always recommend refining. This is going to more than double your yield, especially when you've got tier 1s or even Quantanium, because that stuff gets very expensive in a good way because you get to sell it. You can tell I've been mining here. So once you're in, this might be blank for you if you don't have any current jobs. You'll start on this side. Your material location is your Prospector. Your moles will also show up here, and you'll set up a work order. This is a good opportunity to talk about all of the different methods here. There's a bunch to manage and deal with, whereas in reality, there's only a couple that we want to focus on. And so this is off of the wiki. Now, the most important is going to be our yield. So these 3 is what we want to deal with. Let's come back into our game. So here we are. So normally I'll do fair and exchange, and you'll want to check mark what you want to refine here. Now this will come down to personal preference. Oh, the leaf blowers are coming, hold on. When you're selecting what to refine, you can select everything, or you can focus just a couple. I'm going to recommend to take this based on what you have available, both in background funds and as well as the time you have or the type of ship you have to run the cargo on the backside of things. If you're running a smaller ship, then maybe only refining the tier 1s and the Quantanium. If you have a larger ship, a Taurus, a Constellation, or a C2, I recommend just go for everything. You're going to make your profit back regardless, but if you have a smaller ship, that means more trips down to the surface, and then that can hamper your experience depending on what you want to do. I'm gonna go for dinks. I'm gonna refine everything, and we're gonna hit confirm, and it's in. Now there's a weird bug sometimes where the panels stay on the signing out screen, so there we go. It's probably superstition, but I like to stay and look at it until it gets back to this refinement center. I don't know if they fixed that bug. The only way to get around it is to server hop until there's a working terminal. Kind of annoying. So there we go. Well, there you have it, folks. That's a full Prospector guide with the full mining lap. Go ahead and leave a like, comment, subscribe. I'll be working on a mole video after this. And as always, I will see you all in space.